Hi guys, we are at Allerthorpe Lakeland Park today. This is where the Marauder Triathlon will be taking place this year. And I'm with Matt Nelson, the British Duathlon champion of 2022. How's it going, mate? You alright?
Yeah, I'm going very well. It's a lovely day, isn't it, for it today?
Yes.
Yeah.
We've already been speaking a little bit, so we're going to have to wind it back a bit. I think what I'll do is I'm just going to be a bit selfish and ask some questions that I want the answers to at the moment. So like a big thing for me is currently I'm not following any sort of program.
Yeah.
And I've just been going out and oh, it's a nice day for a ride. I'm going for a bike ride. Or it's been raining, so I just jump in the pool.
Yeah.
If I was to sort of take it a bit more seriously and give myself some structure, what would you say is the most crucial thing to focus on?
So when you first start off, just enjoying it is the best thing to do. Spend as much time in the pool, as much time on the bike, and as much time as running as your work or sort of family life allows.
Yeah.
That's the best way to sort of start off, building up that base volume. And certainly for the first year, I think that's probably the best way to get started, is to start with some base volume and enjoy it. But once you want to start improving and getting a little bit faster and adding some structure to your sessions and your workouts, you can kind of download generic plans online, and there's some sort of rough guidelines out there as to what you need to do. But you need to really think about the distance that you're doing. So if you want to do a sprint triathlon, keep things nice and short. There's too much sort of stigma out there that you need to do 6-hour-long bike rides and 2-hour-long runs and swim for an hour and a half, and that's going to make you faster. And it's not. It makes you really good at going slow. And that's all that sort of stuff does. So if you're training for a sprint, keep things nice and short, keep things nice and fast. Download a generic plan online, and use some of the interval-based stuff to try and help you get a little bit quicker with that.
Right, so okay, that's interesting because in my mind I was like, I'm going to do the sprint, the Olympic, and the half iron.
Yep.
And I was just thinking, if I train towards doing a half iron,
Yep.
A byproduct of that will be I'll just be able to do the sprint and the super sprint.
Yep.
The sprint and the Olympic, which I'm assuming obviously will work.
You will, yeah.
But
yeah.
You're saying obviously be a bit more specific in your training and hit some. So try and do the 3-mile run as fast as you can.
Yeah, that sort of thing. But don't try and make sure every day is a PB day. Right. Especially with running, that's what everyone tries to do when they start running. And it seems there's a lot of the coach to 5k type stuff out there. Yeah. So everyone tries and runs 5ks as fast as they can every weekend or every Saturday at parkrun, and that is not the way to improve. The way to improve is to kind of get a mark in the sand somewhere so you know where you're at. Do a sort of a block of training 3 or 4 weeks, and then get another mark in the sand to see where you've improved. Because you can't PB, and eventually that'll become quite demoralising, whereby you stop seeing those improvements. So you need to find out where you're at, do a block of training, and then do another sort of mini test to find where you're at. And those mini tests, even races class as tests, all they do is justify how good your training's been. And that's all a race is essentially. It's just a sort of measure of how well training has been going. And if your race is not very good for whatever reason, it's normally because training's not been particularly great leading up to that.
I love that, man. I think that's a lot less pressure in terms of your approach. It's something I've been saying to myself, in the sense, like you said, just enjoying it and letting the results be a byproduct of you training.
Yeah.
And enjoying your training as well.
Absolutely.
That's really cool. So with the sprint, and there's also a super sprint we'll be holding on the same day. I'm fortunate enough to work for Planet X, so I get a discount on bikes. So I've been fortunate enough to just be able to buy a really good bike.
Yeah.
But for a lot of people, I just maybe dipping toes into the water. Do you think it's necessary to have a state-of-the-art bike for something as short as a sprint?
It doesn't matter what kind of level you're at. It doesn't matter if you're doing a sprint, super sprint, a half Ironman, an Ironman. If you're just starting off, it is completely not necessary to spend thousands of pounds on a bike. It's a massive financial investment. These top-end bikes are sort of £10,000, and it is not necessary. Some people might not enjoy them for whatever reason, and it just really isn't worth it. You'd be better off investing some time in your training, seeing if you really enjoy it. And if you want to be competitive at the front end in this country, yeah, people do generally need to splash out on more expensive bikes. But when you're first starting off, it is not necessary whatsoever. You can do it on your hybrid shopper. You can do it on your commuter road bike, your mountain bike. It is not necessary at all to spend that much money on a bike. I mean, a 20-kilometre bike course like this, or even shorter on a super sprint, doesn't take long enough to warrant that sort of outlay initially when you're just starting off.
Right.
Yeah, if you want to win a professional race, you need to spend that money. But to start off with, don't. it's just not worth it.
Yeah, I think like when I've been out on certain rides, and I've been doing a lot of things you've already warned against, sort of trying to PB every session, you know, training for a half iron when I've got no like previous sort of training in that respect, and then I'm sort of regretting my decisions, and I'm thinking, God, if I'd not have had the sort of fortune to get a bike through like staff discount and not paid so much money, I'd be like, I've invested in something here which I'm not really enjoying. And I think that it's just a good thing to know that you can kind of jump on and just...
Yeah, you can absolutely. I mean, you'll go, generally speaking, faster on a faster bike. I mean, but a lot of it's down to time spent training and time spent riding your bike.
Yeah.
If you spend 10 grand on a bike, you've never ridden it before, you turn up to here, you'd be better off on your £800 commute that you've had for however long, where your 300-400 quid that you've mountain bike you did your paper round on, because you won't be comfortable on it. You'll be worried you're going to fall off it. So it's honestly not worth it, especially when you're starting out. Save your money.
Well, that's good to know. Something just jogged my memory, actually. I want to bring it back a bit, because obviously, Matt, you're from Driffield.
Yeah.
I'm from Driffield. Never really spoken before, but it's always cool to see someone that's sort of doing good things coming out of a place that I've come from. So, like, congratulations on that. Should have said that at the beginning. What was it that, so I'm just interested to know, like, what got you into this originally? I know, like, Driffield's quite a sporty town, but...
Yeah, I mean, Driffield's very much cricket and rugby, isn't it? I think, is that?
Yeah.
Hockey. I mean, I was a swimmer till I was like 19 years old. That was kind of my background, but I just fell out of love with it. It's just, I was up at sort of 3:30, 4 o'clock on a morning, sort of swimming down the pool, and then again on the evening, and you just had no life. Fell out of love with it when I was 19, sort of took a bit of time away from the sport, and then you might know, like, John Bernard, the geography teacher. Yeah, he was the one who kind of pushed me to get a bike, and he went with me to buy my first bike, did John.
Wow. That's...
So yeah, he went with me to Minster Cycles in Beverley to buy my first road bike, and that's kind of what happened from there, and it kind of cascaded on. So, yeah,
wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, I know. So same teacher would probably know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just fell in love with triathlon, with swimming. Wanted to start something else. He persuaded me to buy a bike and then start triathlon from there. So and then, like, again, not particularly fancy bike. Didn't spend tens of thousands of pounds on it. It was just a normal road bike. So. Yeah.
That's amazing. I'm glad I asked. That's quite like a heartwarming little story, that, actually. So then I know, like, earlier you were saying you only sort of took it more seriously in the last 5 years. So when you first started out, obviously you were already a serious swimmer, and then you transitioned into the triathlon after you bought the bike. Was there any sort of, like, attention to diet, or is it just...
I mean, I do have a dietitian. I mean, my race suit, when in pictures, says "Eat, Drink, Win" on it in big capital letters. That's my nutritionist, a gentleman called Dave Starr. But I notoriously don't have a particularly great diet. I mean, I'm an absolute chocolate fiend. I mean, I love the stuff. And diet, like, you will go better if you eat lots of fruit and veg and you have a healthy, balanced diet. But when you start training lots, if you dedicate your time to triathlon and to training, and you suddenly find yourself doing 8, 10, 12, however many hours you want to do training a week, you can eat a lot more, and you can eat a lot more rubbish with that. Yeah. I mean, I think nothing of having a pizza, Domino's, having a Cornish pasty, having a load of chocolate. There's nothing wrong with that at all if you're doing that much exercise. You really don't need to be over-virtuous with your food. Yeah, eat your fruit and veg and make sure you eat a healthy, balanced diet, but when you're doing that sort of training, you're absolutely right to treat yourself. Especially if it's something you've never done before, then your body's suddenly going, oh my God, why am I doing 8, 10 hours training every single week? Why am I training every day on top of my life with kids and work and family commitments? Yeah, you need to treat yourself. It's absolutely essential that you do. So yeah, it's not.
I think people will be happy to hear that.
It's not just celery sticks and cucumber and chicken.
All right, awesome. Right, so sorry about that, guys. Just pausing because the camera's probably going to overheat in this sun, and with the hot topics we've got going at the moment. So yeah, I guess if we break it down, I'd be interested to know, like, what actually happens from start to finish in a triathlon. So what actually happens in a triathlon? So you'll start your swim, whatever it may be. You might be starting on sort of a beachhead, or you might be starting in the water. But we take it from here as sort of a deep water start. So you'll be in your wetsuit at the start of your race. You'll be sculling water or treading water, or keeping yourself afloat. Or you can even stand up in it because it's so shallow. It's like 5 feet all the way around. So hopefully standing up, having a bit of a rest. And
and the gun will go, and you will start swimming. So presumably front crawl if you're confident enough to swim front crawl, and you will follow the course round, perform your swim, and you'll sort of start to exit the transition ramp. And then you need to get your wetsuit off basically. So you need to start with a Velcro clip at the top, undo your Velcro and pull your zip down on your wetsuit, which allows sort of your suit to fall apart. And then sort of you pull it down to sort of waist level. And then at this kind of point, you want to make sure you're running quite quickly towards your bike. There's a couple of like tips in there to kind of make things a little bit easier. So when you're about to get out the lake, if you pull the neck of your wetsuit down, it lets water into your wetsuit, and it makes taking the wetsuit off about 10 times easier.
Right. Okay.
So your wetsuit will become quite dry and sticky underneath if there's no water inside it.
Yeah.
So you can chuck water into your wetsuit before you start swimming, or as you're about to get out the lake, pull the neck ever so slightly, allows water into the wetsuit, and it will fall off a lot easier. So when you're making your way up to transition, wetsuit should be down by your waist, and you should kind of make your way over to your bike. And at that point, you want to be sliding the wetsuit down to sort of ankle level and kicking it off. Another little sort of pro tip is to have your number belt on underneath your wetsuit. So these number belts, which you all sort of put around your waist and attach your numbers to, a lot of people leave them on the bikes, but if you have it on already, it's just one less thing to think about. So if it's on under your wetsuit, facing backwards, because it needs to be facing backwards on the bike, you don't need to think about it. Just pull your wetsuit off. If you have it slightly above your hips, it'll just sit there ready for the bike, so you can forget about that. And when you're kicking your wetsuit off, helmet goes on. So that's sort of the first part of T1.
And as you're running, sorry to interrupt you, mate. So let's say as you exit and you're running to your bike.
Yeah.
I'm assuming your trainers will be with your bike.
Yeah.
And then do you have like bib shorts on underneath? Bib tights on underneath the suit?
You want a triathlon suit on underneath your wetsuit.
Right.
I mean, some people like to get changed and out of the full wetsuit, but a triathlon suit is the way to go. You want a tri-suit on, and it wants to stay on for the entirety of the triathlon.
Okay.
So it will get very wet, so it'll just take time to dry on the bike, but they will dry very quickly. The fabrics are really good nowadays, so they don't take long to dry at all. I mean, if it's a gorgeous day like today, within 5 minutes you'll be dry. So that tri-suit wants to stay on. Don't kind of waste time drying yourself off with a towel. You'll get very warm on the bike very quickly. So yeah, tri-suit on underneath the wetsuit.
Okay.
With that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Sorry, mate. You're on the bike at this stage.
Yeah. So you're on the bike. So depending on sort of how confident you are as well, your bike shoes will be either next to your bike, and you'll put them on and then run with your bike, or they'll be attached to your pedals.
Already clipped in.
Yeah. So when you see kind of the professional level races, their shoes will be attached to their pedals with elastic bands, so they're held in place.
Right.
So what a lot of people do, I'll show you briefly on my cycling shoe, if it'll come off. So they'll attach at the back of the shoe, there's normally a little heel loop on triathlon shoes, and we'll attach an elastic band to that point, and that will sit in that kind of position there on the pedal, so it doesn't flap around.
You can just slide right in.
And you can just jump on and slide your shoes right in, slide your feet right into your shoes, and then sort of tie them up on the fly. But that's sort of something that you need to practice over time. But yeah, if you're beginning, don't worry about that. It's not a good way to start off if you're not confident with it. Put your shoes next to your bike, slide your feet into them, and just run with your bike with your shoes on your feet, and hop on your bike. And once you set off on your bike, then just ride around the course. I mean, here it's lovely and flat. There's no sort of hills. There's a couple of sort of sharp left turns, but there's nothing too much to worry about on this course. It's quite sort of unassuming.
Yeah.
So nothing too dramatic here. But it is quite a tough course, is this, because the fact that it is so flat means that you have no kind of area to have a rest. I mean,
so you're just always in the same cadence, or always just driving through that same sort of muscle groups as well, I imagine.
Absolutely, always pushing. So if you have a hilly course, you'll work hard up the hill and you'll normally free wheel down it. But here, you have to pedal the whole way around. There's no respite here, and it's quite.
Think of that.
No, and it's quite windy here. It's quite exposed as you get onto the course, so it is quite blustery. So yeah, it can be quite tough on the course.
Okay.
So yeah, just keep in mind you have to pedal the whole way around. There's no downhills to have a rest on. There's one little bridge, I think, isn't there, to go over, and that's probably all you're going to get. So it's quite tough work on the bike.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
And then, so then I guess, well, actually, I think, so we'll assume we'll come to the bike.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to come back, actually. So, you were saying if you're not used to putting the shoes on when they've got the elastic bands on, and just the general transitions, do you pay a lot of attention to those bits in your training?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I go through my transition layout, certainly in the week up to the race. I'll practice where everything's going to be and everything laid out. But the transition wants to be as simple as possible. Like, you will finish your swim and you'll be a bit disorientated because you've been lying down and then you go vertical. So the blood needs to distribute everything. So you're a little bit dizzy and normally a bit confused. So transition wants to be as least cluttered as possible. So don't come into transition with 5 pairs of shoes, towels, talcum powder, elastic bands, gels, bottles, and a bag of everything. You don't need that. All you need in your transition is your bike, the shoes that you're going to wear, and your helmet, really. Right. If you need a drink, it should be on your bike. And if you need any gels or anything like that, you can tie them to your bike or pop them in your back pocket in your tri-suit or slide it into your shoe. Don't clutter transition with loads and loads and loads of stuff, because there's far too much stuff there, none of which you'll need. So keep it as simple as possible, because there's less stuff to think about. If it's not there, you can't do anything about it then. So right. Just don't worry about it. So helmet on your bike, on your handlebars, running shoes at the bottom of that, and that's all you'll need. Don't worry about towels and all sorts of stuff.
Awesome. So yeah, sorry, I'll come back to that. So you've cycled the course, yep. And then I'm assuming you enter back into the place where you take off, and then what does that look like from there?
So you'll start coming back in. If you're doing sort of what you call a flying mount, so if your shoes are attached to your pedals and you don't want to sort of take them off and run with them, you'll jump off your bike at this point. So you'll unclip your shoes, pedal on top of your shoes and jump off. If not, you'll come to the dismount line, clip your feet out and run with your bike to transition, by which point you'll then put your bike on the mountain rail and then take your helmet off after that. It's really important that you take your helmet off last when you're doing that. It's a disqualification or a penalty normally if you unclip your helmet first. And then you want to be into your running shoes. So I mentioned talc because talc is what should be in your shoes at this point. So talc will dry out any moisture on your feet, so it's easier to slide them into your running shoes.
Oh, okay.
You also want to have elastic laces on your shoes if you can. So take out your conventional laces, just stick some elastics in, makes them a lot more easy to get on when you're in a rush. Don't worry about socks for a sprint. It's not worth it. It'll take you 30 seconds to get sort of socks on damp feet. Don't worry. Okay. It's worth going barefoot for this and going no socks. You might get a little bit of blistering, but I would maybe recommend going no socks.
Yeah, that makes sense. Absolutely.
It is a lot quicker, especially for a super sprint. You're unlikely to get anything there. So yeah, running shoes on. Number belt then flips around to the front, so your number has to face forward for the run, and then head out the run exit for the run. And you don't want anything else. Don't run out with your helmet on. Make sure you take your helmet off. I've seen some sites over the years of people running out with bike helmets on and all sorts of things like that. So take your helmet off. Make sure you do that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And then obviously it's all said and done after that. Finish line.
Yeah, just run. There's a turnaround point normally on the run where there's some drink and that sort of thing. Yeah, it's a good idea to grab one if you're starting to get a bit warm by this point. But it's worth noting that in races that are kind of under an hour, so if you're planning on being under an hour, sort of drink and fuel won't make too much difference because it's not long enough to make any difference. If you're racing longer, it will make a difference, but it won't generally do a lot. So if you can kind of make it to the end, don't waste your time eating. And
right, that's really interesting. So on that actually, Matt, for this sprint, you'd suggest just coming in sort of prepared, hydrated, eating whatever you're supposed to eat beforehand.
Yeah, make sure you're very hydrated before you start the race. So drink plenty of water in the days leading up to it, and by all means have a bottle of water on the bike. But if you're out there for under an hour, it's generally not long enough for water to make any difference other than to chuck it over your head to cool you down if it's a warm day. It won't really hydrate you given the amount of time that you're doing it. Okay. So you're better off maybe not drinking it if you don't really need to. If it's a really hot day, then by all means start hydrating. But if you're out there for sort of half an hour, 40 minutes, there's not really any nutritional value to doing this sort of stuff. So you don't need to worry about that really. Just come in, have sort of something that's not going to upset your tummy the day before. You don't want to be running around after having an Indian maybe the night before you do a triathlon. It's maybe not the best idea. So a pizza's a good idea. That's kind of my pre-race food.
What, like that's the evening before or in the morning?
That's the evening before. I have like Rice Krispies on the morning, but pizza's good pre-race food. It generally doesn't upset your stomach.
Hey, look, I'm not arguing with that, mate. That sounds perfect.
That's what I mean.
To me.
The whole diet thing. You don't want to be eating a salad the day before a triathlon. It's no good, isn't that? No.
Awesome. Yeah. Right, I think that segues really nicely into the tips and tricks of cycling the course. Yeah. So I think we can stop it there and we'll jump on the bike.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Awesome, mate. Thank you so much. All right.